We've all had that one moment. Maybe you tried drama club, you kept tripping over your lines, you had a few Snickers, and just like that, decided, I can't act. You took a single messy event and turned it into a permanent identity. It's a cruel psychological reality, but for Stark from Frieren and Zanka from Gachiakuta, it's a daily cage. They let one painful moment decide who they were. Stark is convinced that he's a coward. Zanka is certain that he's mediocre. Neither believes that they're enough. But look at their actions and they tell a completely different story. Let's dig into their stories to uncover the lies they believe and explore why they may actually be among the most heroic people in their worlds. Most of what people consider defining moments are actually just random regular moments that they turned into identities. That's exactly what Stark and Zanka did. I was a failure, a coward. Those are the words Stark uses to describe himself. Why does he describe himself that way? Because he had always been a failure and a fraud in his own mind. But when demons attacked their village, he ran. That was the moment he decided that he was a coward. In his mind, cowards run when the going gets tough. And as a result, he has several misbeliefs when we first meet him. He believed that he was a fraud because he was afraid and unskilled. He doesn't trust that he won't abandon everyone when push comes to shove because he once ran away. He hated that he had survived while the real heroes of his village perished because to him it was evidence of his uselessness and cowardice. I am a mediocrity. That's how Zanka describes himself. He had always been at the top of his class, so when the new girl defeats him with ease, his idea of himself shattered. For him, his thought process was something like, if I can lose like this, then I was never exceptional. And when he literally chose a stick instead of a real weapon, to him it was the most humiliating choice of his life, and his self-perception crumbled. This created some of his misbeliefs. When people defeat him easily, it's because he's mediocre. When he's fighting an opponent that's stronger than him, it's because they're a natural talent. He trains hard to hide his weakness because if he was gifted, he wouldn't need to try so hard. Both Stark and Zanka have different stories, but they make similar mistakes. They both reduced their identities to one painful moment. Their entire journey is them trying to move past that. The thing about Stark and Zanka is that they have their beliefs about their identities, but their actions often contradict those beliefs. What do I mean? Let's look at Stark. He thinks he's a coward, and yet he stands his ground against a dragon and guards the village for 3 years. He stands up to a demon who doesn't even consider him as a worthy opponent. Cowards don't do that. They don't stand between danger and the helpless. They would throw in the towel and run for the hills. He doesn't think he's dependable because he abandoned his village as a child, but we constantly see him stand by and even put his life on the line for his friends, and sometimes even strangers. Stark believes he'll run when push comes to shove, but he never does. Well, except for the time that he's acting as bait and that one time when Frieren told him that running was their best option against a monster. He literally ran out of that cave carrying both Fern and Frieren. The same is true of Zanka. He says he's mediocre, but there's no challenge that he backs away from. He's willing to face any foe or challenge, even if the odds are stacked up against him. A mediocrity would back away and wait to fight another day, or maybe even never. He believes he's ordinary, and yet he's highly creative when it comes to battle strategy and tactics. In his first battle against Jabba, he partnered with Rudo and used Rudo's vital instrument to throw him around just so that he could fight Jabba despite being partially incapacitated. Ordinary people can barely hold their own on a normal day, let alone when they're partially incapacitated. Zanka says he's not good enough, and yet he's out here mentoring Rudo, teaching him about combat and vital instruments. Could a mediocre person do that? You see the pattern here? Both of them consistently do the opposite of what their believed identities demand. I'm curious, which of these characters do you relate to most? Both of them? Neither? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's explore the rest of Stark and Zanka's journey. We often do things despite negative beliefs. It's one of the most contradictive things about people. I may think I'm not smart. Heck, I may even think I'm stupid. But I keep studying for every test. And how many people have tried something time and time again, failed repeatedly, but still keep at it? What is this force that drives them forward? The real reason is that they haven't given up. Stark and Zanka are the same way. They really believed the things they believed. Stark truly believed that he was a coward, and Zanka believed he was a mediocrity. So if in Stark's mind, cowards run, why doesn't he run? If he believes he's weak, why try at all? And if Zanka is convinced that he's mediocre, why train harder? Why strive to become better? I think it's because they are at their core driven by their principles and values. Despite their fears and insecurities, they still show up and get the job done. I don't think Stark fights because he suddenly believes in himself. He fights because people need protecting, and he would rather fight while trembling than let another village perish because he was too scared to help. And Zanka doesn't fight because he suddenly thinks that he's talented. He trains because he's the kind of person who wants to become skilled and exceptional. Their beliefs would want them stuck and tied to the most painful moments of their lives, but their actions keep pushing them forward. Stark's resilience is what makes him the third member of Frieren's current party. Zanka's diligence is what gives him the ability to teach others like Rudo about vital instruments. Stark is a sweet, gentle soul who gets a lot of happiness in fighting for others. If he stopped trying, all the people and villagers he has impacted would have to wait for another warrior, and most would have perished during the wait. Zanka is a fierce warrior who can't stand the idea of a fixed destiny. He is determined to change and grow and become the greatest. Their goal isn't to prove themselves wrong. It is to do what they believe is right for them and the people around them. Ironically, that's exactly what proves their old beliefs wrong. Maybe the reason we love characters like Stark and Zanka is because they keep moving before they've won the battle inside their own heads. They don't wait for motivation, and they definitely don't wait until they believe in themselves. They take action, and slowly but surely, those actions become greater evidence than the stories they've told themselves. And that's how identities change. Characters like Stark and Zanka prove that while beliefs shape a lot in a person's life, it is what they do that matters. Speaking of shaping lives, in my previous video, I explored how a mother and daughter in the Apothecary Diaries had completely different lives because of the identities they built from their pain. You can check it out here. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!